Every October in the UK, we celebrate Black History Month. As a community, this gives us the opportunity to learn, reflect, and appreciate our history in order to understand its relevance in today's society. And with that in mind, I'm very excited today to interview and explore the story of Cuthbert Williams MBE and co-founder of Brighton Hove Black History. Since arriving from Jamaica to the UK in the 1960s, Cuthbert has dedicated his time to supporting our community through his work in the RAF, the NHS, and through a variety of community-led projects. Bert, welcome to Latest TV. What was Brighton like in 1967?
First time I ever seen it was when I came over to England. I was 16 and a half. I was born in February and I came over in August. And in September, I came to Brighton to visit my sisters for the first time. Came by train, visit my sisters, went up to Brighton General, waited for them, and they took me around Brighton by bus. And straight away I fell in love with it. I've never seen anywhere so pretty. We went by bus drive, and I remember they take me along from Brighton General. We came down and I saw the Palace Pier. I saw the Royal Pavilion. I've never seen such a beautiful structure before. And this building on the sea, right over the water. It's a long walk. And I thought, wow, this is ingenious. We drove along to London Road by Preston Park, went into the park. And I've never seen such beautiful flowers in my life. Preston Park, where the park is at the front of it, along there were flower beds with beautiful flowers on dahlias and different flowers like that. And they were sponsored by different countries, and you could see the United States, Canada, Germany, Switzerland. They were all beds. And they were all with a sign and what they were and what countries sponsored them. And I thought, I've never seen somewhere as pretty as this place. I saw Brighton in colour. Everything was beautiful, colours, you know, all over the place. That's how I see it. And I fell in love with Brighton. I did. And then I met a girl who was in Brighton and who was Shirley at that time. And I just called Brighton my home from then, although I had to go back to Germany in the RAF. But yeah, loved every minute of it. Loved Brighton. I've never been anywhere where I'm on the sea, I'm in the city, and I'm in the countryside with the downs. I mean, where else on earth could you go and you're living there? So I feel quite honoured to be able to live in Brighton. So yeah, I love the place. And the people are wonderful. The people are... You gotta admit that Brighton people are special, isn't it?
Definitely. Sometimes it comes across a little bit like we're in our own bubble sometimes in comparison to the rest of the UK. I love Brighton, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. I mean, I used to go out at nights and, you know, pub crawling, dancing, and never any problems. It's only recently that I read about, well, when I say recently, in the last 10 years, that you read that things has changed. But I still see Brighton as that. We walk around our village when we can, when my wife in lockdown, and everybody wave to you and say hello. You know, it's like being back home.
Yeah.
You know, you had to talk in Jamaica. You can't pass someone without saying hello or good morning or good night. Otherwise, they tell your parents that, oh, your boy passed us and never say hello. You get licks, you know, from the parents.
Why do you think that there is maybe differences in how communities accept diversity or even approach racism? Is it because cities like Brighton in the early 60s, like you mentioned, recruiting members from the Jamaican community to support the NHS and many other organisations, do you think that cities like Brighton are diverse because they encouraged that migration and there was more mixing in previous decades?
I think Brighton is diverse due to no, you've got to remember that if you look at the statistics of Brighton, say, recently, 2001 census, for instance, if you look at the 2001 census and think that 3.1% of the population was black and minority ethnic, and that can include the black and minority ethnic, can include Irish, travellers, people from Norway, Poland, Italy. Their class is a minority. 1991, it was 2.1%. In 2001, it went up to 5.6%. And in 2011, it went up to 19%.
Significant
So you,
increase.
yeah, so you can see the diversity increase from around 2011. But I think Brighton has been diverse before that. And I think you could look from Sheikh Dean Mohammed time, from 1779, Dr. Brighton, he was a Muslim soldier, well, converted to Christianity, who built his bath where the Queen's Hotel is. You've got people like the Indian soldiers were in Brighton. Over 12,500 Indian soldiers were in Brighton. The Indian Gate, the entrance to the Royal Pavilion from the south, that is a gift from the people of India to the inhabitants of Brighton and Hove as a thank you for caring for the soldiers. So Brighton and Hove was actually a hospital town, not just for Indian soldiers, but for British and Dominion soldiers. I've seen photographs in Brighton and Hove Sixth Form College when it was converted to a hospital with black soldiers in there. When the king was here, he had a battalion of black soldiers in Brighton, and they were musicians. And the idea to have the black soldiers as musicians was that in the king's time, the better the band, the more they'll recruit. So the king had a battalion of black soldiers, and one of them, a guy called Afflick, and he was from St. Kitts. And he must have married a European woman because he had a son that was christened in St. Nicholas Church in Brighton called Charles Afflick, a mulatto. And a mulatto is a black man, and a black person, a white person having a child. That's a mulatto. So yeah, there's people like Haile Selassie, and he was a refugee, and he stayed in Brighton. I've got photographs of him on Palace Pier. In West Street in Brighton, he went there regularly. There's a plaque in the church in West Street in Brighton, St. Paul's Church, a plaque to commemorate the 5 years that Haile Selassie spent in England and his generous contribution to the repair of the tower of the church. And the more I look, the more I find. You know, I found out about 600 black Africans that went down in a ship in Southampton. And I went to a church in New Timber, which is the other side of the dike, down the hill on the dike side. And in the churchyard, there's a plaque to commemorate the 600 black Africans who died in the sinking of a ship called the SS Mendy. For those 600 Africans that went down, it's a terrible story. I don't think I should tell you this. It's a terrible story that happened about an accident in Southampton between a meat cargo ship and a troop carrying South African ship. And apparently this meat carrying ship go through the fog in Southampton and went into this SS Mendy that was having all these black soldiers on board, and it sunk. And the captain of this meat ship continued going on because it wouldn't stop. It's allegedly he didn't want black people on his ship, so he didn't. So there's lots of little stories like that. But those African soldiers or workers, a plaque is in the church, in New Timber Church, which is very difficult to find out about.
Yes, it is.
You know, so.
I mean, every time I meet with you, Bert, you educate me on more Black history that I didn't know about, and it's also important and significant and very interesting as well to know how deep Black history goes in our local area, Brighton and Hove, but also on a national basis too. You co-founded Brighton and Hove Black History in Brighton, which is an amazing achievement. Please do tell me about what inspired you to take on that initiative.
A girl called Sarah Lee, really.
Ah, Sarah Lee.
Yeah. She's the one that inspires me to do it, because I was chair of Mosaic, and why I did Black History. I was chair of Mosaic, and Mosaic had some funding for have an office, and I was very proud, you know. This was a group. This was in 1995, around that time, 1992, 93. They had some money from the lottery to have an office space. And so we, as a group, we used to meet on a Sunday, the third Sunday of the month. We used to meet in a little school. And we used to have between 100 and 120 members turn out. Well, Mosaic is a Black and mixed parentage family group. You've got to remember there's a lot of white women out there with Black kids.
Yes.
And there's a lot of white men with Black kids.
Yes.
Right? So the idea behind Mosaic was a support group for those in schools and in the community. A lot of the moms couldn't understand how their Black child, a lot of white moms couldn't understand how their Black child could be treated this way, because they weren't.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to help and support, and that's how the group started out. And anyway, we got this funding, and I used to go around and take pictures of everybody in there. I got thousands of pictures of children and Black people in Brighton over the years. And I used to ask the children, if we had an office, what would you like to see in it? And this little kiddie, was a mixed race kiddie, said to me, he said, "Oh, I would like to know more about my history and my heritage." And I thought, bloody hell, you sound just like your mom. Anyway, I didn't know what to say to him, so I'd start telling him about Jamaica, and just like I might tell you that, you know, I come from Jamaica, we didn't have electricity and all that. But I didn't have anything in depth to tell him. So this was on a Sunday, and the next day, the Monday, I went to the local studies in Brighton, and I asked them, "Have you got anything on Black history?" And straight away, the hands was up like that. "Oh, we ain't got any Black people in Brighton, really." This was telling me from the museum, not the local studies. This was being told to me by the local studies. But somehow, I didn't get anything from them, but I decided to go to the library and start looking, see what other historians. So I started reading other historian booklet, you know, to see if I could find any keyword like Black or Negro or mulatto or any of these words, because nobody was writing anything about, people don't write anything about Black people or Black history. They don't write anything about it. But the more I look, the more I start finding. You know, and I went back to the museum, and I said, "I've read in this book that they get their source from here, and we're able to," oh, they go. But I felt they didn't want to help me. I felt that they didn't really want to help me, and that's how I felt. But now I don't think that. I think they change your attitude, they totally change your attitude, and it seems more helpful. And they'll help you with something that you know, but they might not help you with something that you don't know. So, and that's what you need. You need people to, you need to talk to people, historians, and find out, you know, these things.
Definitely.
And then I found out so much stuff. I found out about George Bridge Tower, an 80-year-old boy who played in the Prince's Band in Brighton for 14 years. So famous was he that Beethoven wrote about him. When he played with Beethoven, Beethoven wrote about him and gave him a tuning fork as a gift. That he's a master of his instrument. Got that from. He was a child prodigy. His dad was a Barbadian. And his dad was a Barbadian, and he moved to Portugal, Poland, married a Polish woman, or probably a German woman, had 2 children, and one of this was George Bridgetower, a child prodigy violinist. The king purchased him for £25. This from his father, purchased him for, I don't know.
Would that have been a lot of money then, Bert?
Oh yes,
£25?
yes. £25. Ancestry.com converted. I should convert it. You know. I'm sure I did that once, and yeah. And then he played there. He was a regular church goer, this George Bridge Tower as well, and he used to go to Chapel Royal Church, because the king would pray at St. Nicholas Church on the hill, but unfortunately the horses couldn't take the king up the hill comfortable, and so the vicar came up with this idea, capture him, built a church next to the pavilion, which is the Chapel Royal. But unfortunately, the vicar of the church had a sermon about immoral living, and the king got quite upset about that and never returned back to the church. But he used to send his servants there.
That's very interesting.
And I think, yeah. So Brighton is full of history. Sarah Forbes Bonetti, an African princess, given as a gift to Queen Victoria, got married in St. Nicholas Church in 1862.
Which is the church just up by...
The hill.
Yes.
The hill.
By Churchill Square.
That's the one. That's the one opposite there. And the day of the wedding, before the wedding, there was news that there was a suspected royal wedding in St. Nicholas Church. In the newspaper it was. And the whole town, it seems, at Brighton, turned up to witness this people of colour wedding. There were children climbing the trees, there's men on the wall, there's children sitting on the wall. So much it was that the vicar had to send messages to the chief constable to come and clear the way from the north side of the church, St. Nicholas Church, so that Sarah could get into her own wedding.
Wow.
It was a rainy day, but people were still there, and there was a big article published in the local newspaper, the Gazette, and that's where we get the information from.
It's really interesting to know that black women, black people had that status and presence in our local city.
Oh yes,
all
doctors.
those years ago.
Sheikh Dean Mohammed, Royal Crescent, a set of 22 houses that built in an archway at the Royal Crescent. That is built by a West Indian called J.B. Otter. And he purchased, constructed 2 houses either side of the Crescent, and he built them with a material which is mathematical tiles, which is tiles onto wood base, glued on, stopped on. And 1778 he built that, 300, 400 years, and it's still standing.
Wow.
And there's Thomas Highflyer, a little enslaved boy rescued from a slave dhow on the coast of East Africa, brought back to Brighton, looked after, lived in Great College Street, went to school in St. Mark's Schools in Brighton.
Yes.
And he went to school there. He was a very popular child when he went to school. He was actually the main attraction at school. The headmaster, on Thomas' first day of arriving, the headmaster called the children together and said, we're having a little black school fella coming along, and we want to show him that children with blue eyes and white skin can be kind and gentle to a dark-skinned stranger. And that's coming from the teacher. So I thought at that time it was something for a teacher. I'm very proud of talking about him. Brighton Hove Bus Company is named a bus after Thomas Highflyer. We do think highly of him.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure to explore your story. And thank you so much for your time. And I will definitely be exploring the Black History website in a bit more detail and exploring some of the stories that you've discussed today. And I would definitely recommend our audience to do the same.